next to me, running on dreams. 'Cause I can't see how this could be reality. You're holding me close, and I don't know. Do I let you in? Do I let it show? All of my fears and all of my ghosts are the only thing I've ever known.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee with your host, Rick Alexander. Today, I'm dropping a brand new series called The Mental Game. Essentially, I'm going to do, I don't know how many parts. I've already got quite a few planned out, so we'll see how long this continues. But the idea here is that I want to talk about the corollaries that exist between sport and between life, because one of the things that I believe is that nothing that you do exists in silos, and so everything you do has a tendency to carry on into everything else in your life. And so if you find success in one area, the chances are that you could be successful in multiple areas, but it's actually an application problem, not an information problem. And I believe that about most people in the world today. Like, we have so much information. We have an overeducated society because we live in an information culture, and so there is the opportunity to learn anything you might want to know about any single thing. What we have is an application issue. We have people that have trouble taking all the information that they're getting and putting it into something productive. And so with this series, I want to explore some of the things like mental toughness and grit and some of the components that exist in one area of life, like sport or any kind of physical discipline like fitness, that we can apply to other areas of our life. And I believe that most people who find success in one area and have trouble, like you see it a lot in the fitness industry, people will be really high-level athletes, and then they'll become trainers, and then they'll start having trouble in the fitness industry because they haven't figured out how to take what they've learned and apply it into another area, because it's not always common sense. Well, the area we're going to talk about today has a pretty broad application, and that is quitting. And you guys know how I feel about this, especially if you've read my books. Like, I do believe that there is a time when you should quit. In our culture, and especially the job that I came from in the military, like, if you quit, you are a piece of shit. And that's how we look at so many different things in our culture today. It's like, if you start something, you should finish something. And I actually don't believe that there's any nobility in that, as long as you're making your decision to quit based on a value structure. And we're going to get into what that means and how you think about that through this episode. But there's no nobility in reading a book that sucks, or staying in a relationship that's drowning you, or staying in a job that's tearing your soul away. Like, there's no point in doing that, because at the end of your life, whether you did it because of peer pressure or because of societal standards or because that's what you thought people expected of you, at the end of the day, once there's no more time left, it's not going to matter what the reason was. And so today what I want to do is I want to talk about when you should and when you shouldn't quit something. So I spent a lot of time as an instructor in the military for BUDS, for Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL School, right? And so anybody that wanted to be a Navy SEAL or a Navy SWCC would go through what they called BUDS orientation. It was like the first part of the pipeline, just like a quick 2-week kick in the balls to give the students a lay of the land. And of course, we had tons of people that would get in the program, get overwhelmed, and then quit. And so as a lead instructor, I actually got to interview a lot of these people that would go through the pipeline and then end up quitting. And I started to notice that there were certain patterns between the people that quit, that made a good decision to quit, let's say, quote unquote, good decision based on a value structure, and then the people that quit in the heat of the moment. And I realized after talking to all of these students, and it's surreal, because on one end I got to be the hammer, I got to be the instructor that would force their back against the wall. But then as soon as it was over, I got to be the calm, collected, rational person who got to just go talk to them about other options and essentially just talking about, like, look, this isn't the end of the road for you. You have a lot of life ahead of you, and here are options, and here's a way to view your current situation. So I really got to see a lot of the psychological aspect of training and how it played out in people. And I came up with a rule, and the rule was always quit on a good day. Because what I began to find is all of the people that regretted quitting were people that quit in the heat of the moment. The moments when they felt overwhelmed or too scared or too whatever it was, felt like there was no direction for them to go. They decided to make the decision to quit. And then, of course, once it felt like the chaos had subsided, they were then left to lament their decision and wish that they had made a different one. In contrast, the students who would come to me at lunch or in the morning, even if they had time to think about it, were like, look, here's the thing, here's what I've thought about, here are my reasons, and I don't want to do this anymore. And so I got to realize that the people that quit on a calm, cool, collected, and good day were making the decision out of the right thing. Now, for people that are going to take on something like their first marathon or ultra, I talk to them a lot about this same idea because there's going to be moments where you definitely want to quit when you get in these really long physical endeavors. Same thing with CrossFit, to be honest, but it's a little more acute. It's not as much of a long, slow burn. And so I do think that there's some psychological differences there. But essentially what I tell my clients is, listen, you've already put in the work to train. You've decided that this is something that you actually do want to do. You've decided to make the decision to continue doing this. And so when it gets hard, understand that you've already decided to keep going and that quitting is not an option and that all you have to do is continue to put one foot in front of the other, especially when you're in a real low point. And that alone, that ability to continue to put one foot in front of the other will get you out of damn near any situation. And I've taught myself that over and over in these ultra marathons. But I've also learned them in work situations in so many different times. Like if you've decided that finishing is something that you want to do, well then at that point you have to take that absolute mindset like we talked about with the toothbrush and just continue to put in the work and continue to move forward, regardless of how slow the progress might seem. Because the reality is if you decide to quit at the heat of the moment or during the heat of the moment, you're most likely going to regret it because it's not a decision that you've made out of any kind of value structure. And so when you think about your relationships and your jobs and all of the different ways that you might want to pivot in life, and I've done a whole series on this called Should You Jump, so go back and listen to those if you're thinking about it. But this idea that we should always make our decisions based off cooler heads, right? It's that idea that cooler heads will always prevail. So when you're thinking about quitting in the middle of a workout, quitting in the middle of an event, quitting in the middle of your job or your relationship or whatever it is, I believe that this rule applies. Only quit on the good days. If you quit in the heat of the moment, you most likely will regret that decision because you're not making it off something that matters. Hopefully this resonates with you guys. Hopefully if you think about the decisions that you're making in your own life, well, this will make a little bit of sense and you can apply this knowledge because I really do believe that this holds up regardless of the arena that you might find yourself in. If you guys listen to the long-form Lionheart Radios, tomorrow we're dropping an epic episode with Emily Schramm of the Meathead Hippie podcast. And so I hope that you guys will all join us for that. And I'll talk to you tomorrow on Lionheart Radio.